Here is my new and improved Game Week 1 draft. Starting off our team, in goal we have gone for Manchester United's new signing Onana. I think he is amazing value at 5 million. He comes in at 0.5 million cheaper than Luke Shaw, who was potentially another player I was going to look to get into my team, as Manchester United's defensive data from last season was really impressive. Luke Shaw obviously was a standout performer as well, picking up a few goals and an assist and plenty of bonus points. But for that extra 0.5 million saving and what it can do for the rest of the team, I do believe Onana is the easier route into that Manchester United back line and is replacing Ramsdale on my new and improved Game Week 1 draft. Moving into the back line, we do start with one of the most popular picks, and it is Estupinian. Brighton obviously have a really good opening free fixtures, and he was one of the key standout performers last season for them. Luton at home in Game Week 1, absolute stellar, cracking fixture for him. 1 goal, 7 assists last season, and I keep harping on about this, but potentially could be on penalties with the departure of McAllister. Obviously, Pascal Gross is probably the player that's going to be taking over these, but Estupinian has taken a few on international duty, so I'm holding on to that, and I'm hoping and I'm praying that this man is on penalties. But at 5 million, I don't think you can go wrong having this guy in your team. The next player we're going to talk about in the defence is Gabriel. Again, another very popular pick at the back. He was the 4th highest scoring defender in last year's game. 3 goals, 0 assists, and played every single game for Arsenal last season. Originally, in my last draft, I did have Ramsdale, but we've now switched that round. We've gone for Gabriel and Onana as the pairing. Arsenal have a really good strong set of fixtures to start the season, and I definitely think you need at least 1 Arsenal player in the back line and 2 going forward, who we will come on to talk about a little bit later in the video. But Gabriel is going to be our second defender. He also had the 2nd highest XG among defenders. I think it was only Fabian Schär who had more. So yeah, he's obviously got that attacking output as well. Arsenal should be looking to keep plenty of clean sheets in their opening 10 fixtures, so really happy to have him as our second defender in the team. The next player, again, very template at the back for my draft, and it is Trent Alexander-Arnold, a player who is going to be playing out of position. We saw it in Liverpool's first pre-season game. He was slotting into that CDM role, and it worked wonders last season. Worked really well for England as well over the international break. For him, 2 goals, 8 assists last season. Liverpool's fixtures are a little bit hit and miss at the start, but I definitely think he's a player that you need to have in your team, and I think he's going to be an essential player that you need to have in your back line. Moving on to the midfield, the first player who, again, another one I think is essential to have, and the second Manchester United player in our team, it is going to be Bruno Fernandes. Now, I know a lot of people are going for Rashford, but for me, Bruno at 8.5 million is an absolute joke. 8 goals, 9 assists for him last season, on penalty kicks as well, and massively underperformed on his expected data. Also been named Manchester United captain this season, so you can imagine he is going to be pretty much starting every single Premier League game for them. Whereas Rashford, there might be a little bit of rotation. I feel he's a little bit more injury prone than Bruno Fernandes as well. So I don't hate either option, but for saving that extra 0.5 million and getting penalties in on that, I think Bruno is the better pick. Moving on to our next midfielder, and it is our second Arsenal player in my Game Week 1 draft, and it is Bukayo Saka. Like I said, with these really good Arsenal fixtures, we've got to be looking at the double up at a minimum. Triple up is, for me, got to happen in your team. 14 goals, 12 assists for him last season. Like we said, the really good fixtures. Obviously, the attacking plethora of talent that Arsenal have as well. Saka, another player who is going to potentially be on penalties as well. It just makes sense for me. Obviously, a lot of people are liking Odegaard, are liking Martinelli. Obviously, there are so many, like I said, attacking players within that side that I do think minutes are going to be a little bit of an issue. European football as well for Arsenal this campaign is going to be, you know, a minutes issue in terms of FPL, and I do feel Saka is going to play more minutes than the Odegaards and the Sakas, and that was proven last season with Saka having higher expected minutes than Odegaard did. So I think for the same price and getting penalties, he just makes more sense than going for Odegaard. Moving on to our next midfielder, and it is a man who I've seen in a few drafts. I've seen people talk about him on Twitter. It is Phil Foden. I've put him in I want 2 Manchester City players, maybe even 3. I'm not quite sure on the defensive situation, what's going to happen, who's the most nailed players out of there. But we're going with 2 at the minimum. Obviously, can kind of work out who the other one is. But Phil Foden is going to be in our midfield. 11 goals and 7 assists last season. That is quite ridiculous considering the limited amount of minutes he played. He only played about 1,800 minutes, and to be putting up numbers like that is absolutely ridiculous. And I've seen a lot of people saying, well, you know, he's not a good pick because of his minutes, because of his, you know, lack of points, and he didn't do that well last season. The man scored more points than Mac 10 and Matoma, and they're players that, like, you know, especially Matoma, people are whacking in there. I had him in there. He hasn't, you know, only 1 assist since game week 31. So to rule out Foden with Manchester City's fixtures and players departing from Manchester City as well, seems a little bit ludicrous to me. That why would you not have Phil Foden or Jack Grealish in your game week 1 draft? Limited players, they've got really good fixtures. They are one of the best attacking teams in the Premier League, in the world. Let's just say it, in the world, Manchester City, one of the best teams in the world. They're going to get goals, and I do believe Foden is going to be involved from the start of it. Another potential controversial, I don't know, differential, let's go with differential pick is Luis Diaz. Obviously had an injury hit season last campaign, only 4 goals and 2 assists in 17 games, but I think he played less than 900 minutes, so not really getting a lot of games. That equates to like 10 full 90s that he's played over a season. Yeah. You're not going to put up unbelievable numbers in that period of time, are you? The reason I've gone for Luis Diaz is I do want a Liverpool attacker in our side. I think that front kind of 3-4 that they're going to have this season is going to be cooking, ladies and gentlemen. Obviously, all of them fully fit, fully firing, all kind of had a pre-season together. For me, that is a good combination of factors for me that Liverpool are going to be cooking. They've sorted kind of the midfield transitional players, your McAllisters, your Slubitzers, we're going to go with that, kind of them players out. So I do think the attacking players are going to get a lot more opportunities this season, and Luis Diaz is a nice easy way into that midfield. Obviously I can't afford Salah with this draft. If Luis Diaz isn't popping as well, there's players like Mount, there's Maddison, there are so many other good players that we can easily transition to in game weeks coming up. Our final midfielder we're going to talk about is Mbeumo. Again, a very popular pick. Brentford do have really good fixtures after game week 2. It looks like he's going to be on penalties after Tony's suspension up until January, so having him in makes complete sense. 9 goals, 9 assists for him last season. You add penalties to that mix as well. If he converts a couple of them, we could be looking at, you know, 13, 14 goals for him this season. That would be ridiculous from a Brentford attacker at 6.5 million. That's why he's gone in my team, and I think he should be in your team, and that's why he's a very popular pick as well. It just is how are Brentford going to do without Ivan Toney. They kind of did really well at the end of last season when he was injured / suspended, so, you know, hopefully that can continue from an FPL perspective. Moving on to our 2 forwards, starting us off, the first one is going to be Erling Haaland. 14 million for him. He's probably going to be our captain most weeks. He's going to be the captain for me in game week 1. Obviously, I've seen a thread around, you know, maybe going for Rashford or Saka. They could easily outperform him. But I think Haaland is going to absolutely smash up the Premier League yet again this season. I think we don't really need to say any more on him, do we, to be honest? Moving on to our second forward, and it is Gabby Jesus. He completes our triple up of the Arsenal kind of players. 2 Arsenal attackers and an Arsenal defender. Last season for him, 11 goals, 7 assists. Great fixtures for Arsenal, and he's at a nice price point where when those fixtures do swing or he's not quite hitting form, there are plenty of other good players. You've got your Wilsons, you've got your Isaacs, you've got your Watkins. So many good players around that, and Cuckoo as well, just popped in my head. So many good players around that price point that we can pivot to, and that's what I kind of like to do with my Game Week 1 draft, is have players in positions where if they don't work out, we can easily pivot and maneuver to other players around that price point if their fixtures are good or if they're absolutely cooking, ladies and gentlemen. But that was the Game Week 1 new and improved draft. We will quickly run through the bench. Areola, 4 million goalkeeper. Onana's probably going to play every single week for me. Baldock, cheap 4 million defender from Sheffield United, who played plenty of games for them in the Championship last season, so he should be playing yet again. Gusto is the interesting one. Played at right back in Chelsea's first pre-season games. It does look like Reece James has picked up another injury. Shock and horror. So it does look like he is going to be getting a lot more game time this season. Obviously, Azpilicueta as well has left the club, so again increasing the probability that this man is going to be playing game time. Seeing him play in pre-season as well is always an encouraging sign for a 4 million defender. Final forward is Woodrow, signed a new contract with Luton. I think if Florent Balogun moves, he's going to be the one that we do go for, but I think it's Milan or Napoli are potentially looking at him, so it might not even be an option. But again, it's just going to be a 4.5 million dud forward. I don't really have any key suggestions that I'd say. Woodrow's the one I've gone for. He signed a new contract, played a few games, but if Balogun moves, he's going to be the one that we do go for. If you did enjoy today's video, please be sure to like, comment, and subscribe, as I do answer every single question down in the comment section below, and we're trying to hit 1,500 subs on the channel. But thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, for watching, and good luck in game week 1.